It can seem sometimes in this on the spiritual path like there's just so many little dark crevices where you can get lost in all kinds of confusion and chaos and insanity. But you know, the one thing that kind of immediately takes care of all of that is just letting go of the need to belong. The need to belong. Trying to find a home in this madness. You notice how if you let go of that, of not needing to fit in anymore, to get it right like others have gotten it right, that just handles all of your problems. You know, doesn't matter. You don't need to be accepted, allowed to stay here, to live. You've dropped it, taken it off your priority list. Rather than trying to find your place in the world, why not change the whole perspective or the whole way of moving through life from being a person who's trying to find where they how they fit into all of this to being a visitor, you know? Because it's never really made sense, has it? None of this. You've never really fit in, felt like you fit in like a glove. And if you have, it was very short lived. It's that feeling that you're kind of expecting to have happen has not really happened. Why? Because that's not the point of all of this. The point of all of this is to deceive, is to lure truth, freedom, away from itself and make it believe that it can find itself elsewhere somehow, that it can find its home elsewhere. Not going to happen. Be a visitor. I was just talking with someone a little while ago using the example of, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go into like one of those Victorian museum houses. It's kind of set up, they have them set up in a way that whoever used to live in that house a couple hundred years ago, they have it set up exactly, you know, like they just left the house 5 minutes ago, kind of thing. I was suggesting to someone, what if you just left your house, you know, and then before you re-enter, say, this is not my home. I'm a visitor to this residence. I'm a tourist. And you open the door and you walk in and you look around. first thing that would be very noticeable is the disidentification with that being my life, who I am, me. And a lot of attention to all the details would be happening. Right? Because it's not yours. And because it's not yours, you're not taking it for granted. None of it's yours. There's more attention. Looking at, oh, this character kind of likes to have his bed put that way. You notice when you visit someplace that you've never been to, you're paying much more attention. And yet when you return home, what you call home, the blinders kind of go on. The paradox of truth is that anything you claim as being yours is what you ignore. And yet the truth is that everything is yours. It's made of you. But as soon as there's a statement inside that says, mine, my thing, attention is lost on that thing. Be homeless, metaphorically speaking. So there's a it's actually a very natural thing when the self-inquiry starts to really become a regular thing in your life, that your way of being in the world starts to be kind of joyfully suspicious, joyfully curious of everything. What's that all about? And mainly about who you think you are, not so much about world stuff, although that's there too. Once you accept that you don't know who you are, that you don't know what you are, then you become very curious about all of the little claims that happen inside the mind that says, I do know who I am. Really, eh? Be a visitor even to yourself. Yes, isn't that the biggest and the strangest and the weirdest? I cannot actually know what or who I am, even after realization of being all of this. So strange. Yeah. And it feels right in a strange way. I'll steal some spiritual lingo and some common spiritual lingo and say that you are the formless. Formless. The deepest truth of you, the formless. And this is nothing but form. All of it is just screaming at you. When you first come into this world, it's just screaming at you. Claim me. You know, claim, put a claim on me. Label me. Identify me. Because it's just one form after another. It's all forms everywhere. And that's strange to the deepest truth of you because you are the formless. And yet this world is so seductive. It's pulling at you to say, find home in me by giving me meaning. Giving me a name, a story. And you notice as soon as you label a form, it's almost like now there's this sudden bond there. There's a familiarity, isn't there? Almost has a feeling of home in it, even though it doesn't quite go all the way. It can't. Because true home is where no connections are made. But it can really seem like that can happen just by the act of looking at this existence and saying, yep, that's that. That's what's going on over there. And then now there's this intimacy that's developed because of how you've described reality. Now you've got a family. Waking up is the end of having a family, metaphorically speaking. Sometimes, even existentially, things fall apart in the family department. Depends on what wants to happen. Sometimes I realize I don't know myself. I behave differently with different people. Sometimes I really can't know what's my true nature. Every relationship is like an acting, sort of. Yeah. unless there's this clean seeing happening that you are literally in the midst of interacting with yourself out there, then all relationship is an act in some degree, in some form. Because if you're not interacting with yourself, then who the hell are you interacting with? Who's that? Of course, it takes two to tango. You know, your relationships wouldn't last very long anyway if you weren't in some way supporting who they were also performing to be, performing as. And it's all then, in a way, false. Nothing of this form is really truth of what I am, right? And then the paradox. Nothing is outside of truth. So even this play of supposed separateness is still ultimately coming from truth, an expression of truth, creativity. It's creativity. People play out the roles I give them. Yeah, you know, I say there's an unconscious sacred agreement that happens in most relationships. And it's, I'll support you in being who you want to be and being who you say you are if you'll support me in my efforts to try and be this particular person. And it's a sacred agreement because you don't mess with that, right? You don't start calling people. You don't start questioning, oh, well, why do you do that? Why do you act in that particular way? As soon as you start doing that, you know, your friends start dropping like flies. Sometimes. Because you're breaking that sacred agreement. What about love between people? Or just, what about love? What about love? What is love? I think it was said somewhere, all love is self-love, if it's true love. Most of the time, you know, the unconscious idea of love is you're loving me for who I appear to be. And I'm loving you for who you appear to be. Real love is just this joyful, unconditional acceptance of what's in front of you. Could be your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your son, your daughter, father, your mother, the mailman, the mailbox, the car, sandwich. You know, it's just this acknowledgement of no division. That's what love is. because then there's this beautiful merging that happens. It's not even so much merging. Well, it starts out that way anyway, it seems. Real love is the recognition of unity, that you're not separate from anything, from the world. If your love is reserved for something specific, then it's not real love. It's not totally authentic love, is it? It has conditions. The love between people is no different than the love between you and a flower, you know? It's all the same stuff. You could say that one of the most beautiful gifts of this whole play, this whole existence, is the ability to experience love. Without this subject-object play, love wouldn't have a place to exist, right? But yeah, ultimately at rest, when consciousness is at rest, resting on itself, there's no love. There's no love. How could there be? There's no two things connecting. And then as consciousness moves outward, and looks upon things itself and sees itself, then that gift we call love happens. Love's never lost, right? When I say that you at rest, there is no love, I don't mean that love is lost. It's just not the resting state. The resting state is simply awareness. When that awareness, as soon as that awareness expresses itself, love is there, potentially. Then truth masked and interacting with itself. It's like magic theater, one actor, one stage, one script, one director, one play. It's really hilarious in a strange and cool way. Yeah. And it's always been just one. That's the amazing thing about this. There's never actually ever been two. You've only ever been interacting with yourself. Anything else is an impossibility. Will you please touch again on how to cleanly see that all is literally one self? To do that, here now as we sit, what first has to happen is to see that there is no self. It's only through that void that a real understanding of unity can be possible. So, first, look and see, look and see, look until there's nobody looking. It's through that silence, and you see that there's nobody here in the middle, that everything else is not foreign anymore. It's only when there's a middle of you that it makes sense that this is not you. When there's no you here in the middle, then what is everything else? There's no else. No such thing as else. How to wake up every morning with a smile on one's face, no matter what the situations he's been going through. How to be very calm from the inside. Well, I don't wake up every morning with a smile on my face. Sometimes, I look pretty scary. Face all smushed and hair all over the place. I would say let go of needing the truth to look a certain way. Because it's really just truth waiting for what it calls truth to show up. It's waiting for itself to show up. And if it can only show up as a smile on your face in the morning, or as this wonderful, calm, serene person, you've just right there created this idealism that maybe you'll get right sometimes and maybe you won't. But because now truth has got to look like that, you can't be it all the time. You can't be the truth all the time. Truth is just awareness. That has no form, no shape, color, nothing. See that, recognize that that's what you are. And these other things, like smiling for no reason, being more calm, they'll start to happen more frequently. Not because you're mastering them, but because you're getting to the heart of what you are. Part of what seems to keep calmness away is that there's this deep-seated belief that you're the opposite of calmness, that you're just this chaotic whirlwind, suffering hurricane at the center. Look closer. Is that true? Is that really what you are in the middle? If it can't be the case all the time, then it's a booby prize. If it's something that can be added to you, added to your experience, that that what you are can be altered, it's a booby prize. Real freedom has to be something that you already have. You already are. So don't believe it. Find out if that's true. And the way you usually find out is in the midst of turmoil, problems, challenges that come up, and where it really feels like you're somebody that's suffering. And in those moments, question, who's this happening to? Who owns this experience? Those negative experiences tend to happen a lot because it's already assumed that there's a knowing of who it's happening to. My favorite phrasing of that middle is when compliments and criticisms have the same effect on you. Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny, strange thing to start experiencing. When it doesn't matter anymore if someone thinks of you in a nice way. Really beautiful when someone thinks of you in a negative way. Because then it's really seeing what freedom is really like. No damage can be done. So long as you're somebody, you can always be damaged. Right? Don't try to be nobody. Find out if maybe you already are nobody. no damage can happen to nobody.